I'll never forget the exact moment my life changed. My phone buzzed that afternoon, an ordinary sound on an ordinary day, but the voice waiting for me on the other end was anything but ordinary. A woman introduced herself as a caseworker from Child Protective Services. For a second, I thought I misheard. My brain struggled to catch up with the words she was saying. Then it landed. Someone had reported me for child neglect. My son. My sweet, 10-year-old Jacob. They were accusing me of being an unfit parent. That word, unfit, stabbed deep, like a cold blade in the gut. Couldn't breathe. My hands went clammy as I gripped the phone. My heart pounding so loud I could barely hear the caseworker's flat, professional tone. Neglect, improper feeding, obesity, none of it made sense. Who would dare say something like that about me? About us? My mind whirled, racing through possibilities, faces, names, and then it clicked. Karen. Of course. My neighbor, Karen, who lived next door with her perfectly trimmed hedges and her perfectly judgmental eyes. The woman who peered through her blinds like a hawk circling prey. The self-appointed queen of the block. The one who never missed a chance to lecture anyone about rules and appearances. Yes, it had to be her. I could practically hear her voice dripping with false concern. Think of the children. Anger bubbled up inside me, mixing with fear until I felt like I might collapse. How dare she? My son wasn't perfect, no child is. But Jacob was healthy. He played basketball 3 nights a week. He ran through the yard chasing our dog until he was breathless. And yes, he even ate his vegetables with only minimal complaints. He wasn't some neglected child. He was a boy full of laughter and energy, broad-shouldered for his age, with a smile that could light up any room. And Karen had twisted that into something ugly. That night, I sat across from Jacob at the dinner table. The scrape of forks against plates filled the silence. I forced myself to smile, but my voice trembled when I finally spoke. "Buddy," I said softly, "someone called people and told them you're not healthy. They think I don't take care of you." His wide brown eyes looked up at me, confused and hurt. "But Mom," he said, "you pack my lunch every day. You make me eat broccoli." His voice broke between a laugh and fear. My heart cracked in two. How was I supposed to explain to him that sometimes people don't want the truth? They want power. The next morning it came. A knock. Not the friendly tap of a neighbor. Not the cheerful thud of a delivery. No, this was sharp, cold, official, the kind of knock that makes your pulse race. I opened the door and there they stood. 2 caseworkers, clipboards in hand, expressions polite but detached. They introduced themselves with rehearsed calm and stepped inside without waiting for me to gather my courage. Their shoes clicked on my hardwood floor, echoing like judgment. They asked questions. Endless questions. What did Jacob eat in a typical day? How often did he exercise? Did he have a pediatrician? Did I have proof of medical checkups? My answers came out in stammers, even though I had nothing to hide. My kitchen became a crime scene. Every corner scrutinized, every cupboard opened. They checked the fridge, the pantry, the fruit bowl on the counter. One of them even asked Jacob to step on a scale, right there in the kitchen, as if his worth could be summed up in a number. My cheeks burned with humiliation, hotter than fire. And then, through the corner of my eye, I saw it. Karen, standing at her window, blinds tilted, her silhouette unmistakable, watching, smirking, drinking it all in like it was her personal soap opera. Rage surged through me, so strong I wanted to march across that lawn and scream until her smug smile cracked. But I bit down on my lip until it bled. Not yet. The caseworkers finally left, assuring me they'd file their report. Their footsteps faded, and the silence they left behind was deafening. I collapsed onto the couch, trembling. A storm raged inside me. Fear, anger, exhaustion. Could Karen's lies really cost me my son? Could one woman's cruelty rip apart the only family I had? The thought alone was unbearable. The days that followed were worse than any nightmare. Every time I walked into Jacob's school, I felt eyes on me. Parents whispering behind cupped hands. Voices too low to catch but heavy enough to feel. The rumor mill had begun its work, grinding and spreading poison. I saw pity in some faces, suspicion in others. Shame clung to me like a shadow I couldn't shake. Then came the day Jacob came home, his eyes red and swollen, tears streaking his cheeks. He dropped his backpack on the floor and ran into my arms. "Mom," he sobbed. "Some kid said I'm fat and that I might get taken away from you." That moment shattered me. His little body shook in my arms as I held him tight, tighter than ever. My baby, my sweet boy, no mother should ever have to hear that. And that's when something shifted inside me. I wasn't gonna sit back and let Karen win. I started collecting receipts, doctor's notes. Jacob's pediatrician had always been clear. He was perfectly healthy, just a little broad for his age. I gathered meal plans I'd saved, after-school schedules, even team photos of Jacob on the basketball court, his cheeks flushed from the game. Piece by piece, I built a wall of truth. If Karen wanted a war, I would give her one. Armed not with gossip or venom, but with proof. But even as I armed myself, fate had its own cruel plan. Nights grew heavier, whispers thicker, and every glance from Karen's window cut sharper. She wasn't finished, I knew that. She wanted me broken. She wanted me branded. And then, 2 weeks later, everything began to change. 2 weeks later, I was driving home when I saw flashing lights at the end of the street. My stomach clenched. An ambulance sat outside Karen's house, its red lights bouncing off the windows of every home on the block. Neighbors gathered in small clusters, their voices hushed, their eyes glued to the commotion. I parked the car, my pulse hammering in my ears, and stepped out. The autumn air felt heavy, weighted with something I couldn't name. EMTs pushed a stretcher toward the ambulance. On it lay Karen's teenage daughter, pale, fragile, barely conscious. Her limbs hung limply as paramedics adjusted the 4 attached to her arm. I overheard fragments from the crowd. Dehydration, malnutrition, collapsed at cheer practice. For a moment the world tilted. Malnutrition, the very accusation Karen had hurled at me. The ugly word she tried to stitch to my name, now hovered over her own family. I didn't know how to feel. Pity knifed through me for the girl. She hadn't asked for this. She was innocent. But laced with that pity was fury at the hypocrisy. And, if I'm honest, a sick twist of vindication. As the ambulance pulled away, neighbors began murmuring among themselves. I heard the whispers swirl like wind. They remembered Karen's constant finger-pointing, her false concern for the children. The mask she had worn for so long slipped in one swift, brutal moment. People started asking the question that had haunted me for weeks. Who was really the unfit parent here? The neighborhood buzzed for days. Whispers at mailboxes, side glances across lawns. I noticed it at school, too. Parents who once avoided my eyes now greeted me with hesitant smiles. The ground was shifting, and Karen's grip on the block was loosening. Meanwhile, the caseworker returned for a follow-up visit. I was ready. I handed her the thick folder I'd spent weeks compiling. Every page was proof of Jacob's health. Every line a shield against Karen's lies. Doctor's records, nutrition logs, a statement from his coach praising his energy and dedication on the basketball court. Photos of him playing with teammates, laughing, strong, alive. The caseworker flipped through slowly, nodding with each page. Her lips pressed together in a tight line, as if she had already known what she was about to say. Then she closed the folder and looked at me. "We're closing this case," she said. "There's no evidence of neglect here." Relief hit me like a tidal wave. My knees nearly buckled under the weight of it. Tears pricked my eyes, but I swallowed them down, holding steady. I had fought. I had won. And Jacob, my beautiful boy, was safe. Still, I couldn't resist. I asked, carefully, "By the way, do you know who filed the complaint?" The caseworker hesitated, but then gave me a look that spoke louder than words. I didn't need her to say it. I already knew. Karen. That night, as crickets sang outside and Jacob finally slept peacefully, I sat on the porch and stared at Karen's house. The lights were dim, the blinds drawn tight. My pulse was steady now, no longer frantic, no longer trembling, because the tide had turned. People had seen the truth. They had really seen. and karma was rolling down our block like a freight train. The final blow came at the homeowners association meeting a week later. Karen strutted in, trying to reclaim her throne, wagging her finger about lawn lengths, trash bins, and hedge trimming. For years, people had bowed their heads under her rule. But this time, something was different. A man near the back cleared his throat. "Maybe you should worry about your own family before you judge everyone else," he said, his voice cutting through the room. A murmur of agreement spread like wildfire. Heads nodded. Whispers of support built into quiet defiance. Karen's face went red, then pale. She sputtered, trying to claw back her authority, but the room was no longer hers. For the first time, she looked small, shrinking, deflated. The queen had lost her crown. I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed, watching it unfold. I didn't need to say a word. The community had spoken for me. Justice had found its voice. But here's the thing. Even in victory, my heart ached. Not for Karen, but for her daughter. She was the collateral damage of her mother's bitterness. She hadn't asked for the pressure, the appearances, the suffocating standards that had led her to collapse. That night, as the neighborhood settled into uneasy silence, I baked a batch of cookies and left them on Karen's doorstep anonymously. Not as forgiveness, she hadn't earned that, but as compassion. Because while she had tried to strip me of dignity, I refused to become her mirror. In the weeks that followed, everything shifted. Neighbors waved more often. Conversations sparked across fences. Invitations came for Jacob to join playdates and basketball scrimmages. The shadow that had once clung to our family melted away, replaced by warmth and welcome. And Karen? She faded. Her blinds stayed closed more often than not. Her once pristine lawn grew ragged. Her voice went quiet at meetings. The power she had wielded so proudly dissolved into silence. Sometimes I'd catch her eyes on me from behind those blinds. But there was no smugness left, no superiority. Just something hollow, bitter, empty. And I wondered, did she ever think about what she almost caused me? Did she lie awake at night realizing she had nearly torn apart a family with her false accusations? Maybe not. Maybe karma's lessons weren't meant for her to accept. Maybe they were meant for me to witness. Because in the end, her attempt to break me had only made me stronger. And Jacob learned, too. He saw me fight for him, not with anger, but with proof, patience, and resilience. He saw me stand tall against lies and come out whole. And now he knows that his worth isn't measured by gossip, cruelty, or the size of his body. His worth is measured in love, in laughter, in truth. The last time I caught Karen peeking from her blinds, I didn't flinch. I met her stare, steady and calm. No words, no gestures, just a look that said, "You don't get to define us anymore." And this time, she was the one who looked away first. That was the real victory. Not the whispers silenced, not the crown toppled, but the quiet strength of surviving the storm. The sweetest justice is not loud. It's steady, it's patient, and it endures. So to anyone listening, never let someone else's lies define you. Stand tall, gather your truth, and let time reveal what's real. Because in the end, karma always finds its way home. Thank you for hearing my story. If this journey moved you, don't forget to subscribe for more true stories filled with twists, turns, and the kind of justice you can feel in your bones. Until next time, stay strong.